p.m. on June 12th, 2023, and I'd like to call the City Council meeting to order. We'd like to begin by inviting Pastor Vince Stifler from Cross Point Church to come forward for the invocation.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, you're good to us. We just thank you for bringing us here tonight, Lord. We thank you for the city of Madison and just how it's flourishing so much right now, Lord, for the job situation, for the schools. Lord, it is such a great place to live and to raise a family, and we pray that you would continue to flourish this area. Lord, help the decision makers, Lord, to be led well and to do whatever it takes, Lord, to help this city continue to be blessed and flourish, Lord. Help this meeting tonight to go the way you desire, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Please join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Finley.
Here.
Councilmember Robleski.
Here.
Councilmember Spears.
Here.
Councilmember Powell. Councilmember Shaw.
Here.
Councilmember Bartlett.
Here.
Councilmember Denzine.
Here.
Councilmember Seifert.
Here.
And Councilmember Powell is on the way. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes. Under legal, we're going to pull the proposed ordinance number 2023-164. This is going to be an amendment to the grounds regulations for the city cemeteries. We're going to take another pass at that, and we're going to put it on the next agenda.
Okay. And with that, the agenda is approved. Now we have approval of minutes number 2023-05-WS from May 17th.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye. The motion passes. Now, next, minutes number 2023-10-RG, dated May 22nd, 2022. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye. And the motion passes. We do not have any presentations and awards, so we will move to public comments pertaining to the agenda. Public comments are for 3 minutes. We need you to state your name and your district when you come forward to the podium and state the agenda item that you are speaking to. We don't have any comment cards turned in, so anyone from the public who would like to speak on items related to the agenda can come forward. If you have items to address that are not agenda related, you can wait till the end during that section.
Jennifer Ashley States, District 5, Council President. On resolution number 2023-200R, project number 22034, Madison Branch Roundabout. The City of Madison is working on a public works project to construct a roundabout at the intersection of Madison Branch and Hardeman. The resolution authorizes the City of Madison to condemn approximately an acre of land. So several weeks ago, Ms. Daly asked how the city was acquiring the right-of-way, and y'all and the planner, Brogan, said that you were paying market rate. Then why are we exercising condemnation? The illustration provided with the resolution states it's a temporary construction easement. Yet you need to exercise condemnation proceedings. Please clarify this so the public can understand. A resolution authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute an amendment to professional services agreement. It's OHM. It's an agreement with OHM. Why do we need $10,000 for the right-of-way agent? And that looked like it was to be paid over annual payments. Okay, on ordinance 2023-188, permanently changing the order of the public comments It looks like the public hearing section is permanently removed. The public hearings always comes after the board and committee appointments. Perhaps y'all can clarify if you're permanently removing the public hearing section. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Coe. Anyone else who'd like to address the council on an agenda-related item?
Margie Daly, Karen's District. I have a few things. Also, 188, public hearings is eliminated. Is that what we're doing? We're eliminating public hearings now, or is that a mistake? Number 2, resolutions 192 and 200. We're going to hire OHM. They're either out of Tennessee or Georgia. Pay them $10,000 to facilitate eminent domain. Now, we've already given $1.3 million to Enfinger to do this roundabout. I have asked several times at several public meetings, would we use eminent domain, and was told no. So I guess this is the way we do it. We lie by omitting that we're just going to hire somebody, pay them, and take a private person's property. I just don't think this is like a good thing for Madison City to start doing. We're going to hire somebody and pay them to take somebody's property instead of paying for fair market value. Then we have 3 software renewal contracts. The one I'm wondering what we monitor, what department, what employees, and don't we have software available to buy in Alabama that we got to buy New World software? I don't know what this is. It's $9,640 annually to a virtual email address. There's no person connected to this New World software. That is 189R resolution. Then 199R, authorization of drainage ditch for walking trails. Have we not learned valuable lessons using floodplains for walking trails? They have cost us millions. Example, Bouch Road Dog Park. The budget, there's just too many questions for me to ask in this 3 minutes that you reduced our time to 5 minutes. My biggest concern here is the public hearings. That's when there's a large project or a project needs a variance. We need to be, the public, we the people need to be able to speak, you know, how we feel about these major projects or giving stuff away to developers. Also, we're hiring another lobbyist. Do we really need another lobbyist to go to be lobbied by the Alabama League of Municipalities, Alabama Cities? Well, they're registered lobbying groups. So I see a new job classification. It's just another lobbyist. I don't think we need it. Either get rid of SWATEC that we pay $60,000 a year, or hire this one. And with that, my time's running out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Please come forward. Seeing none, we will close public comments pertaining to the agenda and move to the consent agenda and Finance Committee report.
The Finance Committee has reviewed all current periodic bills to be paid, and we found everything to be in order. We do have a couple of donations I'd like to point out, and J.B. Hamner, M.C. Fluer, and Valley Internal Medicine have all contributed to the Senior Center. With that, I'd like to move to approve.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell. Councilmember Denzine.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
And motion passes. Next, presentations and reports. We'll begin with Mayor Denzine.
Okay, and since the time that we met last time, we had Memorial Day and a program that our American Legion Post 229 put on downtown. Just want to thank them. They continue to do some meaningful things. It was well attended, and appreciate everyone who took the time on Memorial Day to be there. Secondly, when it comes to the Armory, we had a lot of folks here last meeting. Since have received the petition, thank you for bringing it. A couple of things in working with our police department, I can confirm that we absolutely will have an SRO, at Midtown Elementary School full-time when school restarts in the fall. And that we also, as one of the things they asked for, is increased patrols, and then we'll make sure in that area, especially during school times, that we have increased patrols. And from there, just wanted to share that information. With that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. District 1.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to give a shout out to Public Works. They have completed the Will Halsey intersection, and it is a thing of beauty. It is so nice to turn right there at the post office, going the back way to Walmart, and then going north to have that extended turn lane to turn left to go towards the schools. And this is just another great example of how we support our schools with their infrastructure needs and how we were able to do it in-house with our wonderful Public Works fellas and a few gals there as well. And I want to give a shout out to anybody who's watching who may know a young man or a young woman that this might be a good field for them, that they maybe aren't interested in college, or there may be funding issues for college and they like to be outside and work. Our Public Works Department is hiring, and we would love to have you as part of the Madison family in that regard. Also wanted to share that the Madison Arts Alliance, which used to be called the Madison Arts Council, has rebranded, and we have Sound of Summer. I have cards if anybody would like a card after the meeting. Sounds of Summer has started. We had our first concert last Thursday. It was just perfect. Council President Bartlett and Council Member Denzine were there. Weather was great. I would say probably a couple hundred people. Groove was the band. Food trucks, dogs, sidewalk chalk, everything you would want for just a fun evening of just having our community back together again, which I'm just so appreciative we're able to do that. Home Place Park, Home Place Amphitheater, shout out to Mary Beth and her team. Just a fabulous venue. There's a natural slope there. Everyone had a good view of the band. It just was a wonderful evening. And we have 4 more concerts coming up, so mark your schedule. They're Thursday nights. And again, I have cards. If you want more information, you can go to madisonartsalliance.org, and you'll be able to see the different events they have coming up. And thank you also to MVP as they're helping this organization kind of get their feet back on the ground. And just wonderful to see the arts return to our community. And I just wanted to say again with regard to the intersection of how critical and how important it is that we're able to do these infrastructure improvements. It just helps our folks travel the city more economically and quicker under the speed limit, Chief Gandy, but just to be able to get where we're going more efficiently. And I just want to thank Public Works again for that wonderful project, and that's all I have.
Thank you. District 2.
Yes, I just wanted to let people know that we are continuing with our neighborhood repaving program. And what we are doing is we're working with Madison Utilities. We have several projects at Madison Utilities that require digging up roads. So what happens is we're working together and making sure that we are not repaving a road before it gets dug up and waiting until after they're finished with their projects. What's happening is a lot of our roads and our infrastructure is the same age, and something happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but that it was a technique or a product or something that was very popular about 20-something years ago. And a lot of our sewer ditches, our trenches, are failing. And so when you drive through a subdivision and you see a dip in the road, that's because that trench has failed. So what Madison Utilities is doing is going in, fixing that problem, and then letting our Public Works and our subcontractors know that they're finished, or the job is completed, and then they come in and they repave. By doing that, we're being fiscally responsible because we're not paving a road that's about to be dug up, and we're helping out Madison Utilities to plan their work too. But I think it's a great collaboration between the city and Madison Utilities to do it this way. But that is what is driving a lot of our, the timing of a lot of our repaving. If your road is not dipping in the middle or there's not an imminent collapse, you may have to wait just a little bit because we do have some roads that have major issues. And that's why, unfortunately, some that we would like to get repaved are having to wait a little bit more so we can get these more urgent projects done. and that's all.
Okay, thank you. District 3?
I have no new business.
District 4?
I have one resolution on, adopting and amending the annual budget for a mid-year budget. Like to ask for approval, and then we can go through any kind of discussion.
Okay, so you're moving to
Move to
approve?
approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, opening it up for discussion. Any questions?
I have several, and I have reached out to Mary Beth with regard to them. My main concern with the mid-year budget is the wayfinding fee of $750,000. As I had mentioned with my comments, Public Works, how we were able to redo that intersection. I think that's a perfect example of how we're able to benefit our residents' lives with these restructure or these improvements, the repaving, restriping, things like that. I think the signs are really nice. I think it classifies more of a want than a need. In my 7 years here in office, I've never had anyone email me, text me, stop me in Kroger, and say, Mara, if there's one thing we need, it's more signs in Madison. I just can't, in good conscience, support giving almost $1 million towards signs when we have so many road construction projects that either need to be widened or repaved or restriped. I've always felt like Walter-Iana's kind of the elephant in the room. We don't talk about it. I don't know if we're hoping it'll go away, but it needs to be widened. I mean, ideally to 4 lanes. I think Walter-Iana should look like Hughes Road. It's essentially the same road it's been probably for 200 years, from Triana to Tennessee. It's probably been the same 2-lane road. So I can just think of so many examples. I got an email today from a resident who lives in Bridgefield who said that they like to ride their bikes to Grandma's house. Grandma lives off of Eastview, and I thought, well, gosh, I thought we had sidewalks on Eastview, and I looked up where he was talking about, but the sidewalk ends at McAdoo on Eastview, and I didn't realize that. If we were able to continue that to Slaughter, that would be a perfect example of having a connection from Slaughter all the way to County Line Road, pretty much, if we included the Mill Creek Greenway. So I think everything else in the budget is worthy, and I'm not saying that the signs aren't maybe in the future worthy, but I think right now we just have so many priorities that we really need to tackle with infrastructure. I think infrastructure is our #1 need, and I think greenways would be, or multi-use paths like on ECU would be our #1 want. So I'm a no on the budget unless we can maybe pull that out and consider it in the future when we're able to tackle some of these more important projects. I guess that's where I am.
Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion about either the signage or anything else in the mid-year budget?
The signage, I think she covered. I have several other questions for the budget.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. The first one, if we look on the page for capital improvements, general capital improvements, it says there's going to be $1 million for the hexagon pickleball courts. Now, is that in addition to the money that we spent previously this year, the $385,000 that went to the pickleball courts, or is that included in that?
It's included in that, so so that's a part of that total number.
Okay, so we're adding, so if we've already increased, we converted the tennis courts to pickleball and we put in the lights at that price, then why are we spending up to $1 million on pickleball?
We haven't done all of that yet, so that's still in process of being done. We've purchased lights. We are working to get the installation priced out, but then we haven't redone the pickleball courts yet. And we also haven't purchased any of the other things along the lines of the outfield fencing for the fields and the field revitalization. So that would be the total number spent, of which some of which has already been approved.
So that $1 million is actually for the extension of all outdoor things pertaining to hexagon?
Of the phase ones that we presented in our presentation.
So that includes obligations as well as future disbursements. In other words, checks we've already written and checks to be written.
Correct.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, because that total, I mean, we had softball field lights in that, we had, other things that actually came to, a lot more than the $127,000 that we approved that day. So that money already came from the budget, last year's budget. So why are we adding $1 million? I'm still confused why we have to add $1 million if some of these things were already covered in the budget.
I think what we're doing is we're consolidating all that money into a capital improvement fund that Roger then can monitor all of those things from one fund. So that's the only monies that we could spend is what's in there. So it's what we've, as John just said, what we've spent and or what we will spend to bring that phase 1 to completion.
All right, to me, that's a lot of money for pickleball courts and that sort of thing. Kind of like the signs. All right, my second question goes to the multi-purpose venue capital maintenance funds. Now, I looked at the numbers that we approved for the 2023 initial budget, and then I looked at what was in today's, and it's additional $3 million have been transferred in. And there's no indication of where that money is coming from. It just is all of a sudden in this fund. So if somebody could please explain to me where that $3 million is coming from and why it's being put into the multi-purpose fund at this point, I would appreciate that.
300 or 300,000?
$3 million. It's in the paperwork.
I can't hear you.
Okay. $3 million.
The man with the plan right there.
Good plan.
Good plan.
$3 million is coming from Fund 71, the General Obligation Bond Debt Service Fund. It has excess funds. I transferred it into the multi-use venue to cover Major League Baseball's, what they're requiring.
So this is to pay for everything that we had discussed with Mary Beth previously, that
We're planning on, we cannot wait, we're planning on paying for we've got money to pay for the renovations, and if we don't do the renovations, they can pull the team and there goes our funding source.
I remember looking at what was presented at the time. Some of it wasn't just this year, it was out into the future.
Not necessarily.
Well, that's how it was
one thing
presented
about
at
the two
the
of
time.
these, so I think what Roger's doing is making sure that there's money in there. What Mary Beth's doing is trying to minimize the amount of money that we spend. Major League Baseball came in last month. They did their full audit. We're still waiting. It's a point system based on where you are deficient or efficient. We're waiting to get those numbers. That will tell us what else we would need to do to meet minimal compliance, and that's what she's working on now. So we hope by, it probably won't be the June, but it would be the July work session, that we would bring you guys what those numbers really are. What Roger's doing is planning just in case to have that in that fund so we're ready for it. So if you were to approve what we would spend when we bring it to you, then it would already be in that fund. So he's just trying to keep track of it that way.
I was surprised to see a $3 million item in here with absolutely no discussion prior.
All I did was transfer city funds from one fund to the other.
Well, I'm not saying you didn't put them in there. I'm just wondering where they came from. And I've been told in the past that a lot of this money was coming from the
Mayor
city.
knew about it. He's my daily boss.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm not going against you.
I don't take
anyway.
orders from you.
Well, could I ask a question just to clarify? The council hasn't actually authorized this expenditure.
No.
And so it would take an act of the council to consider what the requirements would be, weigh the risks of what we can do.
Money is not spent until y'all authorize the expenditure.
And we haven't had a discussion yet with Ball Corps in terms of what they might contribute toward the requirements. Because right now, Ball Corps is paying a lease based on the value of property, and we're about to be required to make the property more valuable.
Right.
So there might even be an argument that there would be some contribution from Ball Corps as well to meet some of these requirements. We haven't had the work session yet, right?
You are correct.
Okay, so your act of transferring funds from Fund 71, you're setting things up so that you can pay bills when it's time, because we're not going to pass the next year's budget, and we don't know when certain things have to be done, but we haven't authorized any of those expenditures.
No, all I do is move money to make sure it's there if needed.
And so if Ball Corps were to contribute to some of these
Money goes back the other way.
and you can transfer money the other way. We have not, does that help?
Well, it's just, if we're approving this budget, that means we are putting that money into this fund. Instead of, we're taking it from general into this fund.
Did not come from general,
Came from bond fund.
and excess bond funds.
We're saying that he can write checks up to and obligate up to that amount from that account.
But we still have to have approval as it goes. The different, this checking account to this checking account.
We sign the checks basically with our
Everything, everyone that goes through will still have to come through here.
And just to make sure, because Roger gave me these numbers also, with this transfer over, if approved tonight, the unassigned amount in our general fund would still be $22 million for about a 53% fund balance. That's with everything moved into that fund, still unspent until council approved the appropriation to spend that money.
What it went into the multi-use venue did not come out of the general operating, where most of
But it was, right, that was just, so our checking account still has that amount in it. The bond fund still has,
oh shoot, $6-7 excess $1 million in it.
right. So it still has money in that fund also. So we still have money in each one of those pots to use. We still have to appropriate this when Mary Beth and team can bring a plan back to council for.
All I did was move funds from one fund to the other. Not a penny has been spent, will not be spent until I get authorization to.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
I wasn't going after you personally.
Okay, did you have
I
any
needed
questions?
clarification, that's all. No, I think I'll leave it at that tonight. Those are the two major things. Thank you.
Okay.
So, I got just real quick. First of all, I'd like to thank the Finance Committee, particularly Greg and Connie, because I wasn't around as much as I should have been this time. Roger, thank you for a great budget and always working hard. So I wanted to do that. And I kind of want to get this back to the basics of what we're doing here. We've passed a budget. Okay, we passed that, and all that stuff's in there. And what we do is, thank you. As we go through that, we go through the year, it's an estimate that this is the amount of money's coming in and this amount of money's going to be spent. As we get closer and we collect that, we kind of know where we're at. And if there are excess funds, which there have been in recent years, we can then take those excess funds and do some of these projects. That particular money that came out is because of a decision we made. If you'll remember, we changed accounts and we started getting a better interest rate, so we started getting more money back. We're way ahead of where our bond payment should be. So we've paid our house payment, we're 3 or 4 months ahead, and we got extra money. What do we do with it, right? So that's where we're going. And could we pave more roads and do more sidewalks? Forever. We could spend every dime we have to do that. But at some point, there are other things that, as we grow as a city, that, we need to make ourselves look better. We need to, have some parks and recreation. We need to have some other things. And that's kind of where we're getting to and what's going on. We have better recreational facilities. That's what, when we did a survey, that's what the citizens of Madison said they wanted. So now we're doing that. So that's kind of where we're at. We have a budget. Mid-year is to say, okay, we've gotten that and we have a little bit extra. Let's do some of these things. That's what we're doing. So.
And exactly. And I will say, Maura, for your wayfinding signage, that is the number that is the highest number. Mm-hmm. It would not be approved. You still have to, so you approve the budget with that in a special fund. We still have to go to bid and bring you the final piece of that, which at that point you could say, hey, I still don't agree. And we can also look, based on some of the comments that you made, at segmenting that into a couple of phases, which would minimize the initial cost. And so part of what, in listening, we would do, whether you approve it or not, but going forward, is break that up and then be able to bring council, here's the full amount, and here's what it would cost. We think it'll be less than $750, but we don't know that for sure. Here's what, phase one could be, and then let you guys make a decision at that point. We're just trying to get to the point where we can bring you something that has consistency throughout the city, not 4 different colors.
Right.
Different, it's just a consistency, it's an appearance, it's a pride, and it's, for a lot of people that are now coming to our town, it's wayfinding. It's, here's how you get to Dublin Park, Palmer Park, the community center, Toyota Field, and it helped historic downtown Madison. And as we grow, there are a lot of folks who don't get over to County Line Road.
Right.
That kind of thing. So it helps them get where they need to be. So that's the genesis of why that number's in there at that level.
And I appreciate
the people that would be using that signage would email or call any of us because they wouldn't know us. I think the people that are going to use that sign are people that are from out of town,
right.
don't live here, that are trying to find places to spend their money here. So let's make it easier for them to do that.
Right, and I understand that it's been budgeted for $750 and it's closer to maybe $635. I like the idea of maybe breaking it up a little bit. It just, again, it just comes back to me thinking it's more of a want than a need. And I think every driver has a GPS. So, if they're coming down 565, hey, let's turn here at Madison and, oh, look, there's Main Street Cafe or something like that. I don't know. am I the only one having a hard time?
It does seem like a lot of money for what it is. I agree with that.
I don't know. When I go to other towns, I've got my GPS on, but I'm also looking at signs and trying to figure out where to go. I will say when I go to downtown Huntsville, the wayfinding signs down there are very, very helpful. And I've seen that downtown flourish quite a bit. From the standpoint of, is it a lot of money? Yeah. I would say probably if we did this maybe 2.5 years ago, it would probably cost maybe half what it costs now, since the cost of everything is almost doubled. So at the same time, I think I hear what the mayor's saying. It's a guess. It's a best guess of what we could put in for a budget for it, and let's see what the quotes come back. And if we don't like them, you can always vote no.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I don't know the rules on it, but Roger, in order for the items to be paid for and budgeted, they actually have to be received this fiscal year too, right? So, right. So from that standpoint, I'll take a Snickers bar bet with anybody up here that you order something now and you get it in by 30 September for $750,000 of wayfinding signs.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna happen.
I think you're right with that.
Anybody want to take a Snickers bar bet?
I'll get you a case of Snicker bars.
I am 1-0 on that on this council.
Okay. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that.
One of the things I wanted to point out with this budget is Roger suggested that we have a capital project fund. And I really like that suggestion because it takes all of our big projects and puts them in a separate fund and designates those funds for those particular projects. It makes it actually easier to track those funds. And so that as we're going through the year, we can see that fund going down as we're making payments on the projects. And I just want to say thank you to Roger for suggesting that. I think it's a smart thing for us to do. I think it makes it easier to understand our budget by doing it that way. And it also makes it clear that money has already been obligated and it's no longer in the pot of the general fund or the bond fund or wherever the originating fund is. It is already designated to be spent on a particular project. And I think that makes it more clear and easier to understand. And thank you.
Okay, has everyone had an opportunity to ask the questions that they wanted to ask? Mm-hmm. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are you prepared to vote on the budget as is? Okay, we are ready for a vote.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Nay.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
And the motion passes. Anything else, Greg?
No, ma'am.
All right, District 6.
All right. First, I would like to add my thoughts to what Mayor said about the memorial service. It was very, very well done. Once again, it's a tradition that the American Legion always does, and it was very well done as usual. There were so many people involved, and they got so many youth involved. They got the Bob Jones ROTC, they got the Scouts, they got the Girl Scouts, and they had the Medal of Honor recipient was Colonel Army retired Mike Sprayberry. And the man was an inspiration. He talked to us and how important it is to always remember those that did make the ultimate sacrifice so that we can have our freedoms. And I just really did want to congratulate them for doing another excellent job. Also, the beautification board, I worked with them this last weekend. We started doing the judging for those signs that are out there. These really are important to landscapers. The more of these signs that they can get out there, the better for them. And it does make our city look more beautiful. And they've had to work really hard this year because so many plants died, so many shrubberies and stuff, so much had to be replaced. So I do appreciate the work that has gone into making our city look more beautiful. Also, McDab meets tomorrow evening here at room 130. They're always looking for additional volunteers working on behalf of those in Madison who have special needs. So if anybody has time to commit, please think about joining them. Also, the Madison Police Citizen Advisory Committee, they're meeting June 27th, 6 o'clock at the library. The topic this time is summer safety, very apropos. Also, the festival, the concert the other day was just amazing, and I'd like to really thank the Arts Alliance. They're just getting going, and they did such a wonderful job in putting that together, and I just wanted to thank them. It was a very family. There's so many kids there. It was great. And I agree, the Halsey is looking great. I did have one question just about the railroad, whether there was going to be a crossing sign or drop down instead of just a stop sign, because there are going to be buses, but that's just a thought. And as far as budget and the stadium thing, there are so many people when I was knocking on doors that were really not very supportive of it. So I feel if I'm going to represent my constituents, that's the way I needed to vote. So that is all I have. Thank you.
District 7.
No new business.
Okay, just a couple of things. First, echoing the praise for the Arts Alliance and the reimagining of arts that we're going to actually be talking about mural designs at our next work session, and I think arts is just going to grow in the city of Madison. Mara, I want to commend you for the energy that you are putting into your role as liaison for the Arts Alliance. You are their greatest cheerleader, and it was great seeing you. I'm sorry I missed you at the concert, but it was, and my dog really enjoyed visiting with you, so kudos to the Arts Alliance. We have a work session scheduled for Wednesday, June 21st at 5:30. I think we'll have our agenda published pretty soon. Part of that work session will require us to go into executive session, so the actual public part of the work session will not last as long, but we will stream what we can for the public during that work session. And that's all I have. We do not have any board committee appointments or public hearings tonight, so we will go to department reports and engineering.
Okay. First, I have proposed ordinance number 2023-155. This is authorizing acceptance and improvements of a right-of-way from UAH Foundation to extend Jetplex Lane. The first reading on this was May 22nd.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion or questions? We're ready for a vote.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw? Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. And then B is resolution number 2023-192R. This is authorization of an amendment to the professional services agreement with OHM Advisors regarding project number 22039, that's Maysville Drive and Seegers Road. improvements. This is currently identified in the fiscal year 2023 budget approval in the amount of $10,000 to be paid from the engineering budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Roblesky,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next.
And next is resolution number 2023-200-R. This is authorizing the condemnation proceedings for acquisition of right-of-way and temporary construction easement for construction of Madison Branch Boulevard roundabout.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Does anyone have any questions?
Glad to see that side down there doing a bit of work finally.
So just to confirm,
Trying to help, man.
our goal would be to work with the landowners to purchase this for fair market value. We still hope to do that, but we're starting this because we need to start this in case that doesn't work, which at that point we would move towards a condemnation type process. Is that correct?
Right. I don't fully understand the condemnation process.
Mayor, if I could step in, I would just say that we have
Margie.
reached out to voluntarily see if we can reach an agreement on this. Filing in probate, what we're asking the council to authorize, is just another way that you can get fair market value. You file with probate, and then there's 3 experts who basically determine what the value is. They come to an opinion, and they determine that's what it is. So if there's any dispute whatsoever, it's a very streamlined, quick process within 30 days, hopefully, that we could get a hearing on this matter.
And even if the property is condemned, they are still paid for their property.
Absolutely. The whole process is to fairly compensate the owner for the property. So what we did, for whatever reason, we weren't able to get to a number. This process is how you resolve any sort of disagreements over what that is.
This is a last resort. We're still hoping that the negotiations work.
And we're continuing negotiations, absolutely.
Let me add too, I mean, from the time we've been on this council, I don't know that we've ever taken somebody's property. I know we've gone to painstaking means to ensure that that never had to take place. I know the mayor was downtown. Believe me, there were many opportunities to do that, and we chose not to make sure that homeowners were properly compensated and things were done on a win-win scenario. And that is the way that this council and that we will operate. It's just a process.
And if I could also add, we do have some time constraints with this because we're basically trying to get this roundabout built during the summer months so that, everything's a domino after that as far as making sure that we get infrastructure and get the school built, et cetera. So we're trying to make sure this gets done so that we don't bottleneck things down the road that have to be done. So time is a bit of the essence, so that's one of the reasons why we moved when we did.
And just one other question, I'm not sure for which one, but there was some property that you were able to obtain the right-of-way through negotiations, right? This was
Yes, we closed on that Friday.
Right. That was at the previous council meeting on the 22nd. We brought that to you, and then Brian was able to finish.
So this is just the last piece that you're needing
This is the south side
to complete.
of the roundabout, southwest side of the roundabout.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Roblesky,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw,
Same.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes. Next.
Finally, I have resolution number 2023-199R. This is authorization of permissive use agreement with Madison Utilities to place a pedestrian trail within a Madison Utilities easement to continue the Oakland Springs Greenway. As you can see on the map there, the green represents what was at the time proposed Greenway alignment, and Public Works is working on the west side there on the left. They're most of the way complete with that. In order to get through on the east side of Oakland Springs, we need a route. And there's already, if you could go to the other picture, Garrett, it shows, there's an aerial that shows the actual easement and where we're going to put that greenway path. That one. Yeah. So, Greenway Path, we'll go through this. That's it. This is the existing MU easement. There's a sewer main through there. So we want to run the path straight through there. Piece of the branch right here we need to cross also. And this is the part that Public Works is working on completing right here.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Okay. Motion in a couple of seconds. Any questions?
Teddy had a second.
Teddy had a second, sorry.
Just quick.
Who's first,
Connie,
Connie.
ready for a vote?
Okay. Ready? Okay. Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. HR.
Good evening. I'd like to present resolution number 2023-184R for your consideration tonight. This resolution offers several proposals for changes to the city's job classification plans. First, we'd like to propose for the IT department an Enterprise Resource Planning Support Specialist position. This is a new position that the HR committee approved earlier this evening, and this person will be responsible for tech support, information gathering support, and training support for all city employees who use the New World Systems Hub platform, which, as you know, manages everything from payroll to permitting in the city. Any questions about that one? Okay, thank you. The next two are for the Public Works Department, and these are to propose an updated Deputy Public Works Director job description and grade. We're proposing to change the title of that position to Deputy Public Works Director at a grade 12 to, from Assistant Public Works Director at a 12 to Deputy Public Works Director at a grade 14. And we've revised the job description somewhat to focus primarily on field projects and helping Kent to manage CIP projects, storm cleanup, and anything that's outside and project-based. And then also we're proposing an administrative manager position for the Public Works Department at a grade 12, and this position will be responsible for managing all of the office and administrative needs for the entire department as well as the department head, and this is proposed for a reorganization of the current administrative assistant position.
Move to approve.
Oh, I have one more.
Yeah, one more. I'm
I would love to take your questions on the Public Works Department items if you have any questions. Okay. All right, and finally, we'd like to propose for the Planning Department and Mayor's Office an Economic and External Affairs Officer at a grade 14, and this is a revision of the current job on the books, which is an Economic Development Director at a 17, and this person will be responsible for being a liaison to businesses that may want to be located in the city, and also working with chambers of commerce and the Big Ten Mayors Associations and searching for state and federal funding opportunities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions or discussion?
I just want to say thank you to Megan. We had our HR committee meeting today, and it was just very smooth, and I so appreciate her and her team putting this together for us and supporting our various departments. I know Mary Beth will be glad to have the assistants as well as Kent and Chris and IT, so I just want to say thank you to you for all of the work. It was quite extensive.
Thank you. We're happy to.
Okay, motion and second. Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Legal.
I'd like to present proposed ordinance number 2023-188. This is amending City Code Section 2-42-4, Order of Agenda Items. The first reading was on May 22nd of 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Well, I was just going to ask you, can you go into detail, because I also had a question on why public hearing was eliminated and board and committee appointments were eliminated, and you have an answer for that.
Sure. We actually have a copy of the section of the code that we're amending here, and I just wanted to point out that all we are doing is reshuffling what was already existing. This is the existing code that we're proposing to amend. If you look through this, you'll see that it doesn't actually list public hearings, and it doesn't actually list these other sections. So they're not being eliminated. They're just being reshuffled as we already have them in the code listed now. So all we're trying to do with this ordinance is just simply move that one section as far as the public comments for non-agenda items to the end. So as it turns out, there's some items that we address that are not specifically listed in our code, but I don't believe the intent is to eliminate anything from it.
Right. We'll still have public hearings as they're warranted?
As we have legal obligations in order to conduct public hearings on several matters, so that would still be there. It's just not expressly listed in the code as we have it now. But it's not, this is not eliminating anything from the previous code.
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that.
For the question and clarification. Any other questions?
Can I just ask a dumb question? Does it hurt to actually add public hearings in there, if applicable?
You can absolutely, add anything in there, a public hearing in there, or if you want to, I mean, we can go back and we can revise this ordinance, and if you see fit. But we have an obligation to do those public hearings regardless. So when they pop up, when there's an obligation to do that, they have to be done anyway. So it's just up to the council as far as how they want to handle them.
I mean, I just thought, I'm just asking. First time we've had to chat about it, so.
I mean, if we're going to do it, I suggest that we, put it in the ordinance. I mean, if vote on it this evening and just amend the ordinance as, and I mean, if that's something someone's interested in, I don't know.
I'm not hard over on it. I just bring it out as a topic to say, is that something that?
Okay, so when we did the first reading, we had the previous version and then we had the proposed version.
Yes.
So if we further amend it, do we need another reading, or do we pass what we have already done the first reading, or have a vote on it and then come back and?
I believe that if we were to come back with the proposed amendments and vote on them on the 26th, I think that would be proper under the rules of the Roberts Rules of Order. I think that you would have, and as far as the state law basically allows, the whole reason the first reading is for there to be discussion and for there to be some changes if needed to the ordinance. So I believe that if we were to add those, that I could bring it back on the 26th and then read it at that time for a vote.
And could you add in the board and committee appointments, just so it follows the current agenda that we have?
I could.
Yeah, because I think those are the only two things that are missing, right? Just the public hearings and the board and committee appointments, and everything else is listed in our agenda. Right.
I think so.
That would cover all bases.
So would we just not vote tonight?
I believe it would be better not to vote tonight, but to present it on the 26th.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have to have another first reading and then?
No, I don't. You would not have to have another first reading. Once you, I believe I would confirm this, but I believe that you've basically had your first reading, you had a discussion, you proposed a change, and then it's proper in order to implement a change that you might have had from the discussion at that time.
And this could even be part of the discussion we had. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Got it.
Very good. That's awesome.
All right, so we'll just postpone until the 26th and not take this up.
Do we have to
withdraw the?
We have a motion.
We would have
to withdraw it.
Withdraw.
Motion to
I
postpone?
withdraw my motion. Is that all I need to do?
I think we need to postpone.
I think you have we have a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
So we just need a motion to postpone.
Okay. I make a motion to postpone the discussion and vote on ordinance 2023-188 to June 26th.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Everyone good with that? Postpone until the 26th? Okay.
Sounds good.
And so let's take a vote.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine? Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
And the ordinance is postponed. Planning.
Just one item for you this evening. It's a first reading. You have proposed ordinance number 2023-190, and this is to vacate a utility and drainage easement along the side yard of a property at Willow Pond Drive, and this is to accommodate some site improvements they want to do. So back at your next meeting, asking for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, recreation.
Good evening. I have Resolution 2023-194-R authorizing a transportation agreement with the Madison Street Festival for the 2023 event. This is the Mars buses we provide for the street festival. In the contract, it says we'll provide 2 Mars buses. We will try to provide 3 as staff allows. They requested an additional bus, so.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, motion, and I think Connie won the second. Any discussion?
No, thank you so much for doing this.
They provide the insurance.
Yeah, I think we had that worked out. I think there was an issue with that last year. I think Brian was good with that.
Okay, ready for a vote.
Councilmember Roblesky.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Corey. Now we're at the portion for public comments that are not related to the agenda, open forum. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward, state your name and district, and you have 3 minutes. And seeing none, we will close.
Thank you, Margie.
I don't know, maybe it's because I'm from New York and I'm used to professional construction sites. But we need to start securing some of these construction sites. What's going on Mill Road is a hazard. They had used road sidewalks still ripped up from Friday, watery cement running down the street. It was a hazard. I almost fell twice, so I just went home. I was cycling. I don't know why they're left unsecured. I mean, it's just so unprofessional. We need to have a quality city, take pride in our city, give our residents quality of life. I don't think that's so hard. We certainly give the developers everything. We're talking about the new road. Well, that was for the development for Halsey or Halsey or whatever it is. Our roads over here are falling apart. Nobody's doing anything about the area. And I just wish that these construction projects would be in code enforcement, would go over there and measure the grass on John Blue next to the new gun store. It's like 2 feet high. Nobody's doing anything. When they do there's no sidewalks over there. I really don't understand this. And over here, they're ripping up pipes. Our water temperature was like 85 on Friday because it was all exposed. There was water pour. I just don't know what's going on. Then I'd like to talk about the lights. I see we're trimming trees, but when you have an arm on the light this big, it's not going to light 300, 450 feet away. I mean, I don't know what this Resco project was, but we paid millions of dollars for lights that are causing fatalities in our streets. We've had 2 already because there's no lighting. Okay. But I'm just saying, the reason they're not working, I drove through Georgia and Florida, and the arms are very long on the street lights. The one by my house and around my neighborhood, which was built in the 80s and 90s, we didn't consider the footage of the frontage with the amount of poles or the lengths of the arms. I mean, it has to shine on the streets so that people can see when they're driving if there's a bike or a person walking. So, I saw they're trimming the trees, but that's not going to help us too much. And then the Yes people, I know Maura and Renee, they need to pick up the signs. They're still on County Line Road and Madison Boulevard. And I don't know what this new landscaping is. They're just breaking up the big chunky rocks and putting them by the cemetery. I mean, let's have a little bit of pride. I don't know who the landscaper is on that cemetery, but those rocks look terrible. They fall on the sidewalk. If you're walking or biking, you could really get hurt. And I don't see why we can't use like river rocks or pea pebbles or something that's a little bit more quality. But take a look at the rocks.
Thank you. Okay, would anyone else like to address the council?
Co., Ashley Estates, Council President. Okay, I just want to go on record again about this gun store. Why didn't the gun store come before Planning Commission? Since the gun store is in a B2, there's not a category for a gun store in B2. It would require a conditional use permit. Since we did that I've watched the planner come before council and before Planning Commission to do the conditional use permits for the car washes, the mini storage facilities, for all kinds of different things before. This was the other gun store, which was in a B3, that actually went through Planning Commission. You were probably on the Planning Commission then. Can you elucidate why there were minutes that we heard the microphone was still on, and we heard Terry say that she talked to Renee, and Renee said something about an armory, and somebody said that Mary Beth said it's fine. Oh, it's fine just to have this gun store next to 3 schools. I'm hoping that somebody up here can elucidate why we have a gun store. It never came before the light of day, and it's being built by a brand new school. The school just opened in 2021, and they're building another preschool. If you guys can please help clarify this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to address the council? Seeing none, we will close public comments. Any other?
Renee, would you mind?
No, go right ahead. Absolutely.
So, from the standpoint of why that never came before Planning Commission, the minimum square footage to come before Planning Commission is 10,000 square feet. So, that is why. At the same time, I have no idea when the other gun store came through and whether I was on Planning Commission or not. So, I'll be happy to go research that and look into that. So, that's the reason. Yes, ma'am.
I'll just add that Last Resort Guns, we know the owners go to our church, that Durlings, that probably opened in like 2008, 2010. It was before our time.
I have no idea.
2012? That was close. Yeah, but it was for sure.
I was not on Planning Commission in 2012. I can confirm that. So,
Okay.
does that help, Ms. Coe? At least as to, okay, all right.
Okay. Any other miscellaneous business or announcements?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.